All right, good morning everyone. We're back here to work on our slab boxes. So yesterday I made a video showing how to put together the heart-shaped slab box. Today I'm going to go over how to put together the rectangle slab box. So I'm going to set that aside. My pieces are leather hard, and again what that means is I can pretty much hold them up by an edge. And they will support themselves, yet they're still flexible enough. If I need to alter them or change them, I can. So I'm going to start with one of the top bottom pieces. I'm going to set that on my board, and then I'm going to grab one of the long sides. I like to build the long sides first. So we're going to do the same thing as we've been doing all along. We're going to cross hatch and slip, and we're going to put coils in our seams. So I'm going to start with this piece, and I'm going to go ahead and cross hatch both sides because I'm going to join the two long sides first. So just going to jump right in. Try and work here as quickly and as neatly as I can. And I think, just as a time saver, since I'm going to be cross-hatching onto these sides as well, I'm just going to go ahead and do the entire piece. Okay, got that one done. So again, we're going to join the long sides first. What I like to do is always look at my slab and see if one side looks better than the other. The better side I try to put on the outside of the box. So this side looks better, so I'm going to go ahead and cross hatch this piece here. And now we can go ahead and put this on. So basically it's going to sit right on top here. We're going to paint both pieces with slip. Just kind of dab it on there. We want to make sure we get plenty. Then we're going to go ahead and line this up, and we want to line it up with the outside edge of the bottom piece. It should sit on top, just to be clear. Don't put it on the outside edge, but set it on top, and then line it up. And just use your fingers to kind of feel this outside part here, that it is nice and flush with that outside edge. Okay? Again, it's on top, it's not on the side. And we're going to wiggle it back and forth just a little bit, and as it does, that clay is going to start to grab or bite, and it'll give us a good join. We're going to press down slightly. You'll see some of the slip kind of ooze out, so you know you're getting a nice join that way. I'm going to turn this around just so you can see the inside. So now I'm going to remove some of the slip from the inside. And then this is where we want to put a coil in the seam. So we're just going to take a little bit of fresh clay, nice, soft, moist clay, and we're going to roll out a worm of clay about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in thickness. You don't have to go outside excuse me, and use the extruder. We don't need a perfect coil. This is much quicker, much faster. Just make sure your clay is really nice and soft. Alright, so we're going to take that strip of coil, we're going to put it into the seam here. We're going to kind of tack it down with our finger by just pressing down on it and squeezing it a little bit to get it started. As you do that, make sure your other hand is on the outside supporting this wall so that it doesn't slide or move off of where we've just lined it up or placed it. So once you get it in there to where it's tacked in pretty well, now we want to smear it. So we're just kind of like taking our finger, dragging across it, and smearing it. And some of it will tear off. That's perfectly fine. We want it in there, but we don't want it to look bulky or like it's a lot of excess clay. We want it to look natural. So again, just go over it several times, smearing it in so it looks natural and not just stuck in there. And then again, check your outside wall, make sure it hasn't slid or moved any. Then I like to take my sponge, squeeze all the water out of it, and then go back and forth while I can get my hand in there easily and smooth this out so it looks really nice. You can do this when you cut open the box or before you put the last piece on as well, and I will do it some, but it's a little easier to get in there and do that right now while I don't have the other side built up. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and add the other long side. And as you're building, just remember you're always building on top of the bottom piece. If you don't, and you end up putting one on the outside edge, then our box isn't going to line up and match very well. So I'm going to cross hatch the edge here that I'm going to be joining. Alright, I've got a paint slip on that. And we're going to line this one up exactly the same way. Now this might be blocking your view. I'll turn it here in a minute so that you can see. But it's basically the same process that you used to put on the first piece, kind of wiggling it back and forth, making sure I'm pressing it down, getting a good join, and then cleaning away the extra slip. Okay, and clean up some of that extra slip out of the inside. So if I hold this up, you guys can see inside I've got both walls joined, coils in the seams, and I've smoothed it out. So now we're ready to put on our end pieces, the small end pieces. So these, because when I made the pattern, I didn't necessarily allow for the thickness of the clay, so you're going to have to trim these a little bit, and that's okay. It's going to help you to get it to be the exact size you need. So what I'm going to do at this point, just make sure these walls are straight up and down. I'm going to hold this here on the inside, and you can see that this piece here won't go in between. It should go in between. We want it to go in between. So that's where I'm just going to go ahead and make a mark on the inside, just drawing a line up the edge so I know where it touches and where I need to cut. So as I said, it's actually about the thickness of our slab. So we're going to cut that little bit off. And I tend to cut it with the ruler and also an X-Acto knife, because when it's leather hard, it cuts a little bit more easily than with a needle tool. So just go ahead and slice through it with the knife, take that little bit off, and then stand it up and check it. Make sure it's going to drop in there. Looks like that's going to work out perfect for us. So we've got three sides here that are going to be joined. So we're going to have to cross hatch not only the bottom section where it's going to join, but also up both sides. So on this piece, I'll be cross hatching those three sides as well. So we'll do that first. All right, and then as I said, inside we have to also cross-hatch up this side. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and paint those areas with slip. All right, so again, just drop this down inside. Line it up so it's flush with the other pieces. Okay, and then just squeeze them together and clean away the extra slip. Now I know you're probably thinking, boy, that looks a bit sloppy. And it does, but it will clean up, trust me. Once we get all the assembling done, we can go along with our rib tool, our ruler, our card. We can scrape it, we can sponge it, we can fill in any gaps with a little bit of fresh clay, and we can make it look nice and perfect. So at this point, I'm going to stand this up this way, clean out the extra slip inside. So now the tricky part is we have to put a coil in the seam, not only at the bottom where we join this, but also on the two sides. So I find it's a little easier to do if I stand it up. So again, back to making some coils. Just little worms of clay. And if you can make it all one piece, fantastic. If not, you can put it in there in 2-3 different sections. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can set this in here, then I'll turn it so you can see. I'm going to use the back side of my needle tool here to help me. Okay, so this isn't looking very pretty yet, but we've gone ahead, we've put that coil in the seams, and now what I'm going to do is tack it down, and then I'm going to smear it and clean it up. Again, if your finger tears away a little bit, that's okay. Just get it blended and smoothed in there really nicely. One other thing I might give you a little tip. You'll find if you have long nails, every time you go in these tight areas to blend, your nails will catch on the edges and they take chunks out of the clay. I try to keep my nails cut short to where I don't even see any white tips on them so that doesn't happen. But I always know it's time to cut my nails when they start digging into the projects as I'm working on them. So you may find that you have the same problem, so you may want to cut your nails a little shorter, or instead of using your finger in there, sometimes you might use the back of a spoon, or you cushion it with a sponge over the end as you go to smooth things out. Okay, so if I hold this up now, hopefully the camera is picking it up inside. It's nice and smooth. It's got the coil in the seam to reinforce our join. Now we got one more side to go. So we're going to do exactly the same thing, but on the opposite end. This up one more time. I will go back and I will clean the inside a little bit more, but hopefully that gives you an idea what you should be doing on the inside. Okay, so our last little bit, we want to go ahead and put the top on this. And in case you didn't watch the heart-shaped video, Basically what we're doing is we're putting the top on it and sealing it shut. And the reason we're doing that is because it's an easier way to cut the lid so our lid stays on. If we don't do it this way, what tends to happen is we either have to build a flange, a couple rail systems that will hang down from the inside of the lid so that our lid doesn't slide off the box. Or the way we're going to do it is we're going to close it up, and then when we cut it open, we're going to cut a gentle curve on the lid, and I'll show you that when we get to the cutting open part. And that helps to hold the lid on naturally, so we don't have to deal with making a flange or some sort of a little rails that hang down in order to keep the lid on. So we're going to go ahead and cross-hatch the top portion of this, and then our lid is going to go on top. So we're going to go ahead and cross-hatch the 4 sides like we did on the bottom at the very start, all the way around where it's going to sit and touch. Now on this last piece, we won't be able to put coils in the seams until we cut the lid open. So once we finish putting this together, we'll scrape it, we'll smooth it, we'll sponge it, and when we actually open up the box, then we'll go back and we'll put those coils in that last seam, or the last piece that we join on all the seams. Be 4 of them all the way around. And that just, again, reinforces our joins and hopefully keeps us from getting cracks where we joined our pieces. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and paint this with slip. So the build part is all done. So the tricky part now is you're going to use a rib tool or a card, whichever your preference is, or a ruler. Of late, I'm really liking using the ruler because it hits the top and the bottom. It's a little longer than what my rib tools are. So basically what I do with this is I just hold it up against the outside edge nice and steady, and I drag it from end to end. And it's going to scrape away some of the clay on the surface. And what that's going to do is help me get a nice flush surface, and as I scrape away that clay, it is pressing into the seams where we've joined the clay, and it's going to help hide the seam. So if you hold it nice and steady and you get the surface flush top to bottom, you should be able to get both the top and the bottom pieces. So I will go and work on this, and I will scrape all the way around, and then I will flip it over, and I will do the same thing from the other side, scraping away that extra clay, that little bit of overhang that I had, helping to join the seams, and hide the seams, I should say. And it might take a little time, quite a few passes to get it the way that I want it so it looks as perfect as I can, but I will continue to work on it. And again, I will do the same thing on the sides here. Now if I have a little gap here where I see that it's not filling in the seam after I scrape it, then I'll take a little bit of clay and I'll roll a little coil, and I'll just basically tack it into the surface there, and I'll smear it and blend it in so it covers that seam. Then I'll go back with my ruler or my tool again, and I'll go ahead and I'll scrape it until I get that surface flush and until it fills in the seam to where I don't see it. So that I will continue to work on. Once I get that all done, I will get my sponge. I will sponge and smooth everything all the way around. I'll flip it over, do the other side, and I'll try to make it as perfect as I can, similar to the heart-shaped box that I built yesterday that's in front of me. So once that's all done, I will bag these up, close them so they don't get too much air, and then once they've had a day to really join together, then we'll be back here and I'll go ahead and show you guys how to cut them open and how to put those coils in the seams on the last piece that we join. All right, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you do well in building your boxes. We'll see you in the next video. All right.